Greetings, fellow learners. Welcome to IziCodeCraft. Let's turn our experiences into lessons. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and join the journey. In the last episode, we went through the installation overview that was starting to prepare us for this installation lesson. Today we are going through all the installations. We are going to set up our development environment and installing Google Chrome. So, let's start with it. If you are already using macOS, Ubuntu, or an official flavor of Ubuntu as your operating system and have Google Chrome as an installed browser, you can skip this lesson. Otherwise, click on the small arrow to the left of the method you would like to use below to expand that section, and then follow the installation instructions. So, if you're already using macOS, Ubuntu, or an official flavor of Ubuntu and have Google Chrome installed, you can skip this lesson. Since we are using Windows, we are going to follow along with the instructions here, to avoid any issues later. Be mindful of the OS you are using. We can only support the operating systems indicated above. Our instructions have been tested with macOS, Ubuntu, and official flavors of Ubuntu. We do not recommend installing an OS that is only based on Ubuntu, like Mint, Pop OS, Elementary OS, etc. It's really important to stick with the recommended operating systems here. Using a different OS might cause compatibility issues or lack of support, which can be a headache later. Lesson Overview. This section contains a general overview of topics that you will learn in this lesson. How to set up a proper environment to follow the Odin Project curriculum. And installing Google Chrome in your environment. Assignment 1. If you're not already running a supported environment, decide on which environment you're going to set up. Look through the instructions so you know what to expect. Choose and follow one of the instructions below. Take your time with this step. Rushing through setup can lead to mistakes that are hard to troubleshoot later. 2. After you have your environment sorted, proceed to the Google Chrome installation instructions. Having a modern browser like Google Chrome is essential for many web development tasks and ensures compatibility with the tools we'll be using. Important. This curriculum only supports using a laptop, desktop, or supported Chromebook. We cannot help you set up a developer environment on a Raspberry Pi or any other device. You only need to follow one of these sets of instructions or none of them if you are already using macOS, Ubuntu, or an official flavor of Ubuntu as your operating system. Pick your method of installation below. Here are your options for installation. Virtual machine, which is recommended, Ubuntu and Windows Dual Boot, Chrome OS or Chrome OS Flex, and WSL2 for advanced users. So, I'm going with the recommended option with the virtual machine, and I'm going to go through that setup only in this video lesson. One thing to note here is that I'm going to try to get an overview of the steps first, and then after that we'll go through actually doing it. So, let's first look at all the steps and confirm each thing we are going to do. Installing a virtual machine, also called VM, is the easiest and most reliable way to get started creating an environment for web development. A VM is an entire computer emulation that runs inside your current operating system, OS, like Windows. The main drawback of a VM is that it can be slow because you're essentially running two computers at the same time. We'll do a few things to improve its performance. Using a virtual machine is a great choice for beginners. It's like having a completely separate computer within your current one, which makes it really reliable for web development. It can be slower sometimes or depending on how you're using it, because you're going to have, essentially, two computers running with a capacity of only one, and that's your own computer, that is also called host, in this situation. So, the processors, RAM, storage, etc. are going to be shared between these two machines running at the same time. Step 1. Download VirtualBox and Xubuntu. Installing a VM is a straightforward process. This guide uses Oracle's VirtualBox program to create and run the VM. This program is open source, free, and easy to use. What more can you ask for? Now, let's make sure we have everything downloaded and ready for the installations. VirtualBox is a fantastic choice for our VM setup. It's free, open source, and user-friendly, perfect for our needs. Important. Once you have completed these instructions, you are expected to work entirely in the VM. Maximize the window, add more virtual monitors if you have them, fire up the internet browser in the whisker menu on the top left of the desktop. You should not be using anything outside of the VM while working on the Odin Project. One of the great advantages of learning development and starting to use a Linux OS in a VM is that if something goes wrong, you can always just restart with a new image or VM. Mistakes are not a big problem in this case, as you can easily start fresh without affecting your main operating system. If you feel like you have a good understanding after using the VM for a while, and/or want to improve your experience, we recommend dual booting Ubuntu, which there are instructions for below. Step 1.1. Download VirtualBox. Download VirtualBox for Windows hosts. So, just head over to the VirtualBox website and grab the version for Windows. It should be straightforward and the installer will guide you through the process. Step 1.2. Download Xubuntu. There are thousands of distributions of Linux out there, but Xubuntu is undoubtedly one of the most popular and user-friendly. When installing Linux on a VM, we recommend downloading Xubuntu 22.04. There are a few files listed here. Download the one ending in .iso. Xubuntu uses the same base software as Ubuntu but has a desktop environment that requires fewer computer resources and is therefore ideal for virtual machines. If you find the download speed slow, consider using a different mirror for Xubuntu 22.04 as the one linked before is a US one. If you reach the download page and are unsure about what version to choose, it is recommended that you pick the long-term support, LTS version 22.04, Jammy Jellyfish. You may be tempted to choose a more recent release, but this version is tried and tested by the Odin Project community and therefore the most reliable option for the purposes of this curriculum.
So, in Summary, download Xubuntu 22. April.
This is a popular and user-friendly Linux distribution that works great in a VM because it requires fewer resources than some other options. Make sure to download the .iso file. If the download speed is slow, try using a different mirror for Xubuntu 22.04, especially if you're outside the US. Stick with the long-term support, LTS version 22.04, also known as Jammy Jellyfish. It's reliable and well supported by the Odin Project community. Step 2. Install VirtualBox and set up Xubuntu.
Step 2.1. Install VirtualBox.
Installing VirtualBox is very straightforward. It doesn't require much technical knowledge and is the same process as installing any other program on your Windows computer. Double-clicking the downloaded VirtualBox file will start the installation process. If you receive an error about needing Microsoft Visual C++ 2019 redistributable package, you can find it on official Microsoft Learn page. You most likely want the version with x64 architecture, that means 64-bit. Download and install it, then try installing VirtualBox again. During the installation, you'll be presented with various options. We suggest dropping the Python support as you don't need it by clicking on the drive icon with an arrow, and choosing entire feature will be unavailable. This is how your installation window should look like after turning it off. Make sure you install the application on C drive, as it has tendency to error out otherwise. The virtual machine itself can be installed anywhere, but we'll get to that soon. As the software installs, the progress bar might appear to be stuck. Just wait for it to finish. Step 2.2. Prepare VirtualBox for Xubuntu. Now that you have VirtualBox installed, launch the program. Once open, you should see the start screen. Click on the New button to create a virtual operating system. Give it a name of Xubuntu. If you want the VM installed somewhere else than default C location, change that accordingly in the folder option. This is the place where your virtual disk will reside, so make sure that you've got at least 30 gigabytes for that. In ISO image, choose Other. You'll see a window open for you to find the .iso file on your PC. It most likely is in the Downloads folder. Leave Skip Unattended Installation as it is. Continue by pressing Next and follow the next steps. Step 2.2.1. Unattended Guest OS Install Setup. You should see a window like this one now. One thing to note, I've already did this thing of creating a VM with VirtualBox. I think it was with Ubuntu, but I don't remember anything about this unattended guest OS setup, so that's absolutely new for me. You want to tick the guest editions and install in background options, and also change your username and password fields to your liking. Note that your username must be all lowercase and no more than 32 characters. If you forget to change the default password, it will be changeme. Leave the guest editions ISO, hostname and domain name as they are. Continue by pressing Next.
Step 2.2.2. Hardware.
In the hardware section of the installation, you want to set your base memory to at least 2048 megabytes or more if possible. The upper limit is half of your total RAM, but 4096 megabytes with the settings we recommend should give you a smooth experience. For example, if you have 8 gigabytes of RAM, you could allocate up to 4096 megabytes to your VM's operating system. You can Google how to find out how much RAM you have available if you do not know this already. If the VM runs a bit slow, try allocating more memory. As for processors, you want this to be at 2 and no more. Leave Enable YEFI, Special OSes only, as it is, that is unchecked, and click Next to continue. Step 2.2.3. Virtual Hard Disk. Now, you want to leave all the settings as they are besides the disk size. We recommend giving the VM at least 30 GB of space. Reminder that this disk will be created in the folder that you've specified on the very first step of the VM creation process, but nonetheless, the disk can be moved and resized in the future if needed. Step 2.2.4. Begin the unattended installation. Click Next to be taken to a summary page, on which you can click Finish to begin the process of unattended installation.
The neat thing about it?
It installs the OS and guest editions on its own, without your input. Just let it do its own thing. You will know it is finished when you will see a login screen like this one in the preview section. So, it's to click Next to go to the summary page, and then click Finish to start the unattended installation. The great thing about this is that it handles the OS installation and guest editions all by itself. You just have to wait until it's done. Just click the green arrow called Show, and you'll be presented with a VM window and the login screen. Log in with the password you've set up during the installation process, and we'll have one bit of configuration left to do. It is possible that you'll receive an error like this one after clicking Finish. Okay, let's hope we don't see that happening on us, so that the setup is easier and quicker. But it means you have to enable virtualization in your computer's BIOS or UEFI settings. There is a link here for alternative instructions for enabling virtualization in BIOS or UEFI settings. If you have an AMD CPU, you're probably looking for something called SVM to enable. For Intel CPUs, look into Intel Virtualization Technology. The error should tell you what it is looking for. After you deal with it, just start the machine and let things happen. You'll know that the process is finished when you see a login screen. Step 3. Setting correct sudo permissions. Due to how the unattended installation is configured by VirtualBox, your account doesn't have proper sudo permissions. Think of them as the equivalent to run as administrator on your Windows machine. You can imagine why it would be important to have them in order. Because of how the unattended installation is set up, your account won't have the proper sudo permissions initially. Think of sudo as the Linux equivalent of run as administrator on Windows. Pretty important to have. Step 3.1. Navigate to users and group. First, if you haven't already, log in with the username and password created earlier, then click on the top left of your window. Afterwards type in users and you should see users and groups show up.
Click on it.
Step 3.2. Manage groups. In the window that just came up, you want to click on Manage Groups, click somewhere on the list and type sudo on your keyboard. That should bring you to the sudo entry, like in the picture. Step 3.2. Add yourself to sudo.
Oh, step 3.2 is repeated.
So, this would be the step 3.3.
But okay.
With sudo selected, click Properties and in the window that shows up tick your user's name like this.
And then click OK.
You will be greeted with a password prompt. It's the same one you logged in with. Step 3.3. Reboot your VM. Now that this is all done, you can close those windows and reboot your VM. You can open a terminal window by doing Ctrl, Alt and T and type in reboot and then press Enter to execute the command. Alternatively, you can click on this icon, then click on the power icon in bottom right and pick Restart. Step 3.4. Test your newly gained sudo privileges. Now that you have access to sudo, we can use this to update our Xubuntu through the terminal. Open the terminal and use these commands, one after another. A note on typing passwords in the terminal. When using a command in the terminal that requires you to enter your password for authentication, such as sudo, you will notice that the characters aren't visible as you type them. While it might seem like the terminal isn't responding, don't worry. This is a security feature to protect confidential information, like how password fields on websites use asterisks or dots. By not displaying the characters you write, the terminal keeps your password secure. You can still enter your password as normal and press Enter to submit it. You will be asked for your password after using the first one, Type it in and use Enter to provide your terminal with the password. There is no visual feedback about what you're typing in, but you are indeed doing so. So, if you think you typed one or other key repeated by mistake, you are able to delete the character as if you were seeing it. And in case of missing something, I think we can delete everything and start typing again. That should work too. After sudo apt upgrade runs for a while, you will be asked whether you want to install things. Do so to update your machine. If you have any issues, do not hesitate to come over to our Discord server and ask for help in the #VirtualBoxHelp channel.
Step 4. Understand your new VM.
Here are some tips to help you get started in a virtual environment. Enable the toolbar in your VM settings. There are useful options there that you might want to play around with, especially the ones concerning full screen or multiple displays. To do so, click on Settings and then navigate to User Interface and finally tick Show at top of screen. All your work should happen in the VM. You will install everything you need for coding, including your text editor, language environments, and various tools inside the VM. The Xubuntu installation inside of your VM also comes with a web browser pre-installed, but we'll be installing Chrome shortly. To install software on your VM, you will follow the Linux, Ubuntu installation instructions from inside the Xubuntu VM. You might need to take screenshots when asking for help on our Discord. Here's how, depending on where you use it. Inside the VM, you can use Shift and Print screen keys to take screenshots of portion of your screen. Alternatively, you can click the whisker menu and type in Screenshot, in which you can choose to take a screenshot of your entire screen, the current window you are on, or to select a certain area to capture. On your host Windows, you can use a shortcut of the host key, right Ctrl and E, or click View then take Screenshot for a full screenshot. A different way would be unfocusing your VM window by clicking outside of it and then using the regular Windows shortcut of Windows key, Shift and S to take screenshots of portion of your screen. Remember, all of the development that you'll do related to top should be done in the VM. We recommend going full screen, view then full screen mode, and forgetting about your host OS, Windows. For best performance, close all programs inside of your host OS when running your VM. To add additional monitors. Okay, this is some instructions if you need or want to add additional monitors. I will skip that. Frequent issues or questions. If upon trying to start the VM you only get a black screen, close and power off the VM, click Settings then Display and make sure Enable 3D Acceleration is unchecked, and video memory is set to at least 128 megabytes. Running out of space? Look at these instructions for increasing VM disk space from the top Discord server. Are you using a touch screen? Watch a video on how to enable touchscreen controls for VirtualBox. These initial troubleshooting steps cover common problems you might encounter. Follow these closely to avoid potential frustrations. VM performance tips. When running the VM, minimize your Windows activity. You probably want to be plugged into power as well if you're using a laptop. Make sure your processors are set to only 2 and the memory you've given your VM is at most half of your total RAM, but at least 2 GB. If you can't spare the 2 GB, dual boot. If videos lag in the VM, make sure to max out video memory to whatever you can, or alternatively play them on your Windows if your machine can handle it. Disable 3D acceleration if you have it enabled. Do look out for the icon in the bottom right of your VM window. This signifies that something called Hyper-V is turned on. A thread on the VirtualBox forums describes how to turn off Hyper-V completely. You want to have the icon of a chip with a V icon instead. If you don't see either of these icons in the bottom right, you have to exit full screen mode to see them. If your performance is still lacking, go for a dual boot, as this will make sure you're using all of your specs for one OS only, thus improving your experience significantly. If your VM performance is poor, these tips can help you optimize it. Remember, running a VM can be resource intensive. If your scroll wheel behaves oddly in Google Chrome and/or in other applications, and you have gone through VM performance tips to make sure your VM is working as intended, look into whether your version of guest editions is correct. Dual booting can significantly improve performance, but requires a bit more setup. Consider it if you're having ongoing issues. But be careful too, because dual booting will alter your system's configuration and can lead to data loss if not done properly. So, please consider all of this before doing it. Step 5. Safely shutting down your VM. You don't pull the plug on your everyday use computer, right? Why would you do the same to your virtual computer? When you click the X button and just close out your VM, you might as well say goodbye to your files. In this section, you'll understand 3 ways you can shut off your VM. Option 1. shutting down from inside the VM with UI. Clicking on the whisker menu and clicking the power icon will give you several options on how to modify your session, including shutting down. Yep, that's the same place you might have used to restart before. Option 2. Shutting down from inside the VM with the terminal. Typing power off inside the terminal will do in this case. Your system will immediately shut down. Option 3. Shutting down from outside the VM. The last way to accomplish this goal of safely shutting down is by using the VM interface. Clicking on the File tab and hitting the Close button, which also has a power icon, will bring up a pop-up titled Close Virtual Machine. This pop-up asks if you want to save the machine state, send the shutdown signal, or power off the machine. To be safe, click the Send the Shutdown Signal radio and hit OK. This will safely power down your VM and your files will not get corrupted. Shutting down your VM properly is crucial to avoid data loss or corruption. Always use one of these methods to ensure your work is saved and your VM remains stable. And then we have the Google Chrome installation. We will leave that for later. Let's go to the start again, and now we'll go through each step, but actually doing them. Step number 1 is to download VirtualBox and Xubuntu. First, to download VirtualBox, just click this link. And then, download VirtualBox for Windows hosts. It's downloading now. So let's go to the next step. Now, to download Xubuntu, we need to visit the Xubuntu download page. They recommend that we download the 22.04 version. It should be the long-term support, LTS version 22.04, also called Jammy Jellyfish. But, I think this is an already prepared mirror, so let's open this. Yeah, and now we need to choose the .iso file. Okay, now it's downloading. So, I will cut here and I will get back once the download of the Xubuntu image is fully finished, so we can continue with the next installation steps. Next, step number 2. Install VirtualBox and set up Xubuntu. So first, we will install VirtualBox. We'll double-click the downloaded VirtualBox file to start the installation process. Installing VirtualBox should be easy and with the same steps as installing any other program on your Windows PC. Okay, now we click Next. Here they say that we need to disable the Python support feature, so let's disable that. Click the drive icon with an arrow and select Entire feature will be unavailable. This will make the installation quicker and lighter.
Now, just click Next. Then,
proceed with the installation now?
Yes. And then, install.
Okay, so just let me confirm. And yeah, it's just to disable the Python support feature, and the rest should be just follow the installation prompts.
So, let's click Install.
And, that's it, pretty simple. Step 2.2. Prepare the VirtualBox for Xubuntu. Let's launch the VirtualBox app that we just installed. And then, click the New button to create a new virtual operating system. We'll give it a name. It can be Xubuntu, for example. Then we select the directory that we want to install or create this VM. In this case, I wanted a custom location. If not, you can leave it in the C location. Just ensure that you have at least 30 gigabytes of space wherever you are going to place this VM. In the ISO image section, we'll choose Other, and we are going to select the Xubuntu ISO image we downloaded. So let's go to that same location and select it. The type and version were defined automatically, based on the image we provided, and it's saying that this OS type can be installed unattendedly, and that's what we are going to do, so leave that unselected and just click Next. So, just to confirm, just showing the Odin Project screen, and that's what they said here on the instructions. To leave the skip unattended installation the way it is. And here's the next step, I guess. The unattended guest OS install setup.
So, let's click Next.
I'm going to define my username and password here. And I think we are just going to leave those additional options the way they are. Okay, just check their instructions, and we need to check the Install in Background option and the Guest Editions too. I remember that the last time I did this type of VM installation, I went with a manual setup, and this guest editions can be confusing to install in Ubuntu, so the way it's set up here, it's way easier and better to avoid any type of issue.
So, let's click Next.
Now, on the hardware configuration. They say that we should ideally use 4 GB if possible. The upper limit should be half of your total RAM, so I could go up till 8 GB, but I will define 4096 MB as the base memory, as they mentioned. I think that's sufficient for now for a good, smooth experience.
And on the processors,
they advise to use 2 and to leave the Enable EFI option unchecked. Virtual hard disk. So, at this point, leave all the settings as they are except for the disk size. Make sure to allocate at least 30 GB of space to the VM. Remember, this disk will be created in the folder you specified at the start of the VM creation process. Don't worry if you need more space later on. The disk can be moved and resized as needed.
Now, click Next.
Okay, it shows a summary. Make sure all of this is correct. And then we can click Finish, and it should start with the installation. Okay, everything seems good.
So, I will click Finish.
Now we can see that the VM was created here on the left, and that it's running. We can see in this preview section how the machine is running and what is showing on its screen. We could probably click Show and that would open a new window with the machine opened. But the goal here is to let the operative system to install on the background and leave the system make that startup setup by itself, so we don't need to handle any of that for now. Maybe this will take a while, so I will get back when the preview section shows a login screen, and we can go on the rest of the setup instructions. Okay, we're back. Here's the login screen. I will enter my password and we can go on with the next step. And that is the step number 3. Setting correct sudo permissions. And to do that, we need to navigate to Users and Groups. So, click on the menu button on the top left of your window, type Users, and we should see Users and Groups show up.
Click on it.
Now, we need to click on Manage Groups. Then in the window that shows, we'll want to click anywhere in the list and then type sudo on our keyboard to quickly find the sudo entry.
Then here, click Add.
Oh, it's asking for a password. Let me confirm this step details, just to make sure I'm following exactly what they say. Okay, I'm reading here. So, with sudo selected, we need to click Properties and in the window that shows, tick our username and then click OK. And we will enter our password when prompted. And this password is the same that we set up before for our user. I'm going to check if there's a difference showing when I click Properties again. It just shows the username selected now.
Next, reboot the VM.
To do that, I'm going to open a terminal window by pressing the Ctrl, Alt and T keys. And now I'll type Reboot, then press Enter. Alternatively, you can click on the whisker menu, select the power icon, and choose a Restart as well. The next step is to test your newly gained sudo privileges. Once the machine restarts and you log in, open the terminal. Then run sudo apt update and then sudo apt upgrade. Let's wait for it to start. I'll type my password to login. And now, let's run those commands.
First, sudo apt update.
Enter your password when prompted. Note that the terminal does not display password characters for security reasons, as we went through before.
And then, sudo apt upgrade.
It will ask if you want to continue with the update installation. Just type Y for yes, and click Enter. And what those commands will do is update Xubuntu. Okay, we can leave that installing, and I'll come back once it finishes. And the next step is, understand your new VM. Okay, so we went through this before. I think it only asks us to enable the toolbar in our VM settings. We can do that now. And to do that, we need to go to the VirtualBox application, click Settings. Then go to the user interface and check the Show at Top of Screen. This is related with the VM toolbar. It is helpful to change to full screen, enabling or disabling the guest editions drive that would be needed to install it manually, for example. Those kind of things. Next, we have some frequent issues and questions that might arise. If you have any question as well, please leave a comment on this video and let me know. And the next step is to understand how we can safely shut down the VM. Not sure if I already showed it throughout the setup, but we have 3 options. Shut down from inside the VM, by going on the menu button and click Logout, and then shut down. We can shut it down from inside the VM with the terminal by typing power off and clicking Enter. And we can shut it down from outside the VM. I think that's what I use most of the times, clicking on the X to close the VM window, and it will open a new window asking you how do you want to close it. By saving the machine state or sending the shutdown signal or power off the machine. The option I choose is the send the shutdown signal. It's the same thing as the power off the machine by going to the menu button and clicking log out and then shut down. In here it even asks the expected question on the machine as if we clicked on the log out button on the UI, so we have the option to choose here as well. But usually it would shut down the machine. The save the machine state option will save the machine as it is, so it kinda can be looked at as if you click suspend in the UI. It will maintain the browser or any other application opened. The power off the machine is the same as if you would take out the plug or force the shutdown by holding the power button in your computer. With that, we finished the VM setup. Now, the next thing would be the Google Chrome installation. Why Google Chrome? Because our lessons use Google Chrome, and Chrome/Chromium are overwhelmingly used by developers and consumers. The recommendations we make are very intentional. Look at this usage share of web browsers and see what other folks are using the most. Using the same browser ensures consistency and avoids potential issues that might arise from browser-specific quirks. Choose your operating system. Since we are using Xubuntu, we need to choose Linux here. Step 1. Download Google Chrome. Open the terminal and run this command to download the latest Google Chrome.deb package. Make sure you have a stable internet connection as the download can be sizable. Copy and paste keyboard shortcuts. You have probably noticed that the common keyboard shortcut, Ctrl-V to paste something, doesn't work in the terminal. In order to paste your text input into your terminal, you can use Ctrl, Shift and V keyboard shortcut combination instead. It is also very handy to know that the Ctrl, Shift C keyboard combination will copy any highlighted text from your terminal, which can then be pasted later. These shortcuts are essential for efficient terminal navigation and will save us a lot of time. So, let's copy the command and paste it into the terminal. So, I wasn't recording the screen, but this copy and paste wasn't working at first. I had to go here on the toolbar. Click Devices, then Shared Clipboard and select Bidirectional, and I did the same on Drag and Drop. The shared clipboard is for the copy and paste to work between the machines. I select Bidirectional so that we can copy from the host to the guest and from the guest to the host. The drag and drop is for any file moving between the machines. It's optional. I changed it to bidirectional as well. Now, on pasting the command, it shows a warning message saying, pasting this text to the terminal may be dangerous as it looks like some commands may be executed, potentially involving root access, sudo. But, it's just a warning message. In this case, we have confidence on the origin of the command as it is from the Odin Project, so we can run it without problems. Okay, I will let the download complete and I will get back once it finishes. Okay, we're back. Let's go to the next step. Step 2. Install Google Chrome. Enter the following command in your terminal to install Google Chrome.deb package. Enter your password, if needed. Make sure to carefully type the command or paste it using the shortcut mentioned above to avoid errors. A note on typing passwords in the terminal. When using a command in the terminal that requires you to enter your password for authentication, such as sudo, you will notice that the characters aren't visible as you type them. While it might seem like the terminal isn't responding, don't worry. This is a security feature to protect confidential information, like how password fields on websites use asterisks or dots. By not displaying the characters you write, the terminal keeps your password secure. You can still enter your password as normal and press enter to submit it. This might feel a bit odd at first, but it's a common security measure to protect your password. We will copy and paste again to run the command. Okay, I need to type my password. And I will fast forward the video here a bit if needed. Oh, it got an error, I guess. The file couldn't be accessed by user and permission denied. Oh, okay, this is documented here. You might see a notice starting with N. Download is performed unsandboxed, etc. You don't need to worry about it. You can read a Reddit post for more information. Let's see. They're saying that this is not an error, that the N at the beginning of the sentence means that is just a notice, like an information thing only. So, if you want to read all of this post to understand more about it, just click on that link so you can check it. I will proceed with the next steps. Step 3. Delete the installer file. Cleaning up after installations helps keep your system organized and frees up disk space. So, let's copy and run this command there. And then the other step is to open Google Chrome. We can open it through the Applications menu or run Google Chrome in the terminal to open the app from there. So, let's run these commands. First, remove the installer file. And now, opening Google Chrome. I don't want to sign in right now. And yeah, that's it. So, still about this Google Chrome command to open it from the terminal, they're saying, Chrome is going to use this terminal to output various messages and won't let you run other commands. Don't worry about those messages. If you want to use the same terminal that you run Chrome in for other commands, use Google Chrome and instead. The and at the end of the command runs Chrome in the background, freeing up your terminal for other tasks. And yeah, we can see here that it shows like the command is still running, and in fact, it is, cause the command means that it will run Google Chrome. Since the browser is opened, that means the command is running, cause Google Chrome is running. So, next, knowledge check. The following questions are an opportunity to reflect on key topics in this lesson. If you can't answer a question, click on it to review the material, but keep in mind you are not expected to memorize or master this knowledge. What operating systems does the Odin Project support? The Odin Project supports Mac OS, Ubuntu, and official flavors of Ubuntu. They do not recommend or support OS based on Ubuntu like Mint, Pop OS, or Elementary OS, though. What browser does the Odin Project support? The Odin Project supports Google Chrome. This is because the lessons are designed with Google Chrome in mind, and it is one of the most widely used browsers by developers and consumers. So, that's it for this lesson episode. In this video, we covered how to set up your development environment using a virtual machine with Ubuntu, ensuring you have the right tools and settings for a smooth experience with the Odin Project curriculum. We walked through downloading and installing VirtualBox and Ubuntu, configuring your VM for optimal performance, setting up correct sudo permissions, and safely shutting down your VM. We also installed Google Chrome, the recommended browser for this course, and discussed some helpful tips and troubleshooting advice to ensure everything runs smoothly. Thank you for watching. If you found this video helpful, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more content like this.